Is free jazz actually more free than other kinds of jazz? I would argue that there's an important distinction to be made between free jazz and jazz that is actually free, and here's why. In the 1960s, free jazz started out as a rebellion against chord-heavy and form-driven bop and hard bop, pioneered by people like Ornette Coleman, John Coltrane, Cecil Taylor, and Albert Ayler. They wanted to break free of the constraints of harmony, of form, of rhythm, of tempo. And it was a groundbreaking movement that really opened up what jazz could be. So free jazz is taking all the rules and aesthetics of swing, bop, post-bop, hard bop, and saying we're not restricted by all these unwritten rules of jazz. We don't need to play over a steady pulse. We don't need to use conventional chords and chord progressions. We don't need to use the classical jazz form with the head and then a bunch of solos and the head again. We don't even need a melody. We are free to play whatever we want. In the 60s, this was groundbreaking. However, as soon as you label something free jazz, you're putting it in a box. You're saying this music fits this certain aesthetic. It fits these rules and the criteria for being free jazz. And then, is it really free? Or is it just a different aesthetic? I think that when the rebellious phase of free jazz ended and it just became another genre, it sort of also lost some of its freedom. And that's not saying it's lost any of its value. I'm just saying I don't think the label free jazz is a fitting label anymore. I think there's a lot of jazz music that still feels free today, but a lot of that jazz is not placed under the label free jazz. It certainly has elements of free jazz, but also elements of many other forms of jazz and even other musical genres. And in that, it's actually more free than free jazz. I'm talking about music like Keith Jarrett's solo piano concerts, like The Fringe, George Garçon's avant-garde trio, albums like Directions in Music, Live at Massey Hall with Herbie Hancock and Michael Brecker, and Without a Net with Wayne Shorter. Music that takes the aesthetics of free jazz and blends it with other kinds of jazz. Keith Jarrett going from total abstraction into something that could easily be a pop ballad, listening and reacting in real time with less boundaries and less confined aesthetics than free jazz. So do I hate free jazz? No, free jazz has its place on the music scene. There are fantastic free jazz recordings that have come out since the 60s and still come out today. But I think that the label free jazz was better suited for the rebellious music of the 1960s, and it's not necessarily fitting for the free jazz being made today. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that you can be really free within the confined structure of a song form, but you can also be very limited within free music. Playing with freedom is a state of mind. It comes from musicianship and intention and interplay in the moment. So yeah, a lot of free jazz is free, but a lot of free jazz also isn't that free. And that's fine if the music is honest and it connects with you. Does it really matter if it's free or not? So yeah, that was a little rant about the term free jazz. Let me know your take in the comments.